The reasoning behind getting the conversion van was simple. I'll try to post pictures and stuff so you have a better idea of what I'm talking about, like the size comparison. I did have a little Saturn SL1, like an O2, so it had the nicer interior and stuff. And we had that for quite a few years. Well, the main reason we got it was for the gas mileage, right? So look, there's the new Dairy Queen. They're finally building one. And there's the old one. They're just moving across the street, which is awesome. I love Dairy Queen. Really should go there more, but, you know. Anyways, had a little Saturn SL1 with the newer interior. It was like an O2 SL1. And we bought it for $2,500 from one of the dealers in town. And it turned out to be one of the best little vehicles we've ever owned. Now, compared to the other dealership where we were buying stuff, they would always seem to have a problem or something, and we kept having to get rid of them and get something else because the cost to repair it was too much. So, we bought this little SL1, paid cash for it at the dealer right there, and one of the best little cars we've ever had. Got like 30 miles to a gallon in town, or high 20s, and it got like high 30s to 40 miles to a gallon on the highway. Little 5-speed, no bells and whistles, power windows, roll-up windows, roll-up locks. Thing frickin' ran forever. Nothing ever went wrong with it. But since it got such good gas mileage, and we didn't really have anything else that would do the trip, that would be our number one long trip vehicle, because it would only cost like $100 to go like 1,000 miles, you know, roughly. It was like ridiculously cheap. So my wife's grandparents, they live down in Oklahoma, and I live in Colorado. It takes roughly about 9.5 hours on Google Maps to get there. And of course it always ends up being longer because we have to stop and eat and, you know, potty breaks and stuff. So we took that little car on that trip, and it ended up being kind of the final nail in the coffin. I mean, we were debating about it before, just because it's a smaller car. We had there's 4 of us plus the dogs, and so I'll try to find the picture and post it up here, but it was just for almost 10 hours in this little car, because we just went non-stop except for gas and maybe to eat. We just went straight through. And let me tell you, 2 kids, they're under, I think Lily was 3 and Jack was he was little tiny thing. That many hours in a tiny car, because this isn't the car that's like a mid-size or anything. No, it's the legit compact, small of the small, as skinny as you can get and as small as you can get. So everyone was just frustrated, tired, grumpy, because no one could move around, no one could do anything besides stay in your seat, because that's all the room we had, with all the luggage we had as well. So we were debating about it before, but we couldn't do it just because of gas mileage. But with us going out of state more, that just kind of did it for us. We needed something with more room. So I posted it on Facebook and tried to get it up for sale. No one, of course, had any money. Everyone wanted to do trades and everything, so we're like, okay, well, we'll try to still do money, because that's what the Wi-Fi wanted, and so we... a little too low. So we kept doing that. I had one offer on a Suburban that I really liked, but she didn't like. I wish I would have tried to make that one work, but we didn't get that. So then waited and still nothing came up. And finally, my uncle, he was looking for a car for his daughter, and all he had was his truck and the vehicle he wanted to trade me. So I was like, alright, you know, I've kind of always been interested in them. And it was, you know, new enough and to where it wasn't carbureted or nothing, because I didn't want to deal with carbureted. So we went down and looked, and I fell in love with the van. I really did. The wife, she definitely was not a fan. She did not like the look or the sound or how big it was, but I knew that this thing would be like a game changer for road trips with the family. So it was like a week or two later, and you know, we didn't do it right then and there, because I was still trying to convince my wife to do it. So eventually I was just like, alright, you know, I know the little car is awesome, but I'm telling you, this big old ugly thing, in my opinion it wasn't ugly, but, you know, trying to relate, this big old ugly thing will make our road trips amazing. And it helped the fact that we were, a little bit before, we went and did a trip to California with my mom and her husband, and we took a minivan, which was nice. It was definitely a lot better than the little car. But we had every seat filled, because we had 2 in the front, 2 in the middle, and then 2 in the back with car seats. So it was full, so we had a bit more room to move around, but not much. Everyone was still kind of cramped, no one could really move around. So everyone kind of stayed in their own seats. But anyways, so we were looking at RVs after that trip, because we were like, well, because her other grandpa and grandma lives down in California, which is like 12, 14 hours away, which is crazy. But it's a fun trip. So we were all looking at RVs and stuff and everything, and I was like, you know, this is kind of like an entry level to an RV, because it's a conversion van. It's kind of like the regular van, nothing added like a camper, but it has the insides are just like super comfortable, right? It has the back seat that folds down into like a queen size bed. The seats are all like luxury captain's chairs, and you know, it has the interior lights and stuff. So it's just like, you know, if you don't like it, you know, after we do a trip in it, we'll get rid of it. But I'm telling you, this is the van that we need. Or this is the vehicle we need for the trips that we're doing. And she's like, okay, you know, kind of that sarcastic okay, but it's still an okay. So we went ahead and traded the car for that. So anyways, we got that all started. And of course, it would being an older van, it had some things it needed, like the AC didn't work because it was a 93, it was just worn out. So We ended up doing a lot of other stuff. Still haven't done the ACU. But we did a trip to Kansas, because my dad lives in Kansas. And so we did our first test run in Kansas. And after that trip, she looked at me and said, "We are never taking anything else besides this van on the trip." So, my idea worked. So now she's in love with it. She doesn't like driving it because it's a full-size van, but it is so comfortable that the kids and her just, it was like the most quietest trip we have ever taken. Because the other ones, you know, the kids are upset, they want to move, they want to, you know, get around, they want to sleep, but in those little cars, there's no way to really block out the sun or anything. So in my van, the curtains pull down. It has like sun darkening curtains built in. And so it just makes it like pitch black in the back, and the kids and the wife just love it. So that is why we traded our little '02 Saturn that got some of the best gas mileage I've seen out of anything, really. You know, upwards of 40 miles to a gallon, to a big conversion van tank that got, you know, 10 to 12 and maybe 15 on a good day on the highway. You know, just the comfort level was just like ridiculous. And you know, if I know they're not the best thing, you know, especially gas mileage wise and, you know, appearance wise, but you know, when you got kids and you're trying to make the trip enjoyable, going with at least a conversion van or an RV, you know, like a Class C or a Class A, the convenience level of just the comfort are totally worth the expense in gas to take them places, because, you know, half the battle's getting there, you know, and a lot of people would say that the trip is like part of the fun of going to somewhere, the trip there. And so if the trip there sucks, then everyone's not going to be happy once they get there. And, you know, they're just going to be tired, they're not going to want to do anything, you know. So if you can make the trip there as nice as possible for them, that makes the trip to, once you get there, just so much better for everyone. So right now, I got my van at the tranny shop, and it's, you know, since it's a 93, it's getting a tranny rebuild. Because it's just tired. It was kind of shifting hard, and if you got into it, you can kind of feel the slippage of the clutches and belts under heavy, well, we're going to go this way, acceleration. So, luckily, my brother-in-law, his dad owns the tranny shop in town, so I took it to him. He was super nice and super cool about everything, and I should be getting my van back sometime this week. And he's had it for a few weeks, testing it out, rebuilding it, and whatnot, so I am super stoked, because one of my biggest pet peeves with vehicles is how the tranny shifts. And I'm excited to see how this completely rebuilt, you know, van does, because, you know, if you think about it, that might be in part of why we only got like 12 miles to a gallon, is because maybe the tranny was slipping and the engine was putting out extra power for no reason, you know? So I am stoked to find out how it does, because we did a lot of things to it since our Kansas trip. We got, 10 to 12 miles to a gallon on our trip. We had a different set of wheels and tires. Which the wheels that came on it, one was bent, so it vibrated the whole vehicle. Also, the drive shaft, the U-joints were worn out, so it caused a vibration as well. And there was a smaller size tire on the van, so it caused it to be a different gearing. It caused the RPMs to sit really high. Like instead of the low, 2 to 2,500 range of RPMs that you want to be during the highway, it was sitting more like at 3, 4. Just because of that few inch tire size difference. So, and obviously the tranny was tired and slipping and stuff. And the different tire size, there was a bunch of stuff that were causing that thing to work much harder than it had to for that trip. And so now I bought a brand new set of tires and wheels. The tires I got were actually a bit bigger than what's recommended on the door. So it's going to make the gearing a lot lower. So it'll be a lot better on the highway, which is what I was looking for, because the majority of it is going to be, that's going to be our number one trip vehicle. So I wanted to make that thing like the highway as much as possible compared to our last trip. So we did that. It's getting the tranny done, so now it won't slip, it won't, shift goofy. That is cool. It won't bog itself down and shift wrong, that will help too. So, let's see, there was something else I did too. I think it was mainly just the tires and getting rid of all the vibration and stuff. It was causing itself, just making everything smoother, pretty much. So, yeah, I am super, super excited to get this thing back. I can't wait to see how it does. I can't wait to see if the gas mileage changes a lot. If it goes from, 10 to 12 to 12 to 15, just because of that little tweak, And it's an older van. I know there's basically a brick facing in the wind, but it has a nice little 350 it was changed out before I got it, so it's not the original. So it's going to have a newer engine, newer tranny, new tires and wheels, a bunch of newer stuff. And that's going to make it, I think it's going to make a spectacular difference on gas mileage and how the thing performs. And make it much smoother. Because last time when we took the trip, since it had the older tires on it that were smaller, you could barely hear anybody talk in the van. It was so loud. The RPMs are just setting so high. It's like revving this thing to like 8 or 9, and you just get that solid engine whine. It's just like, really? You can quit. But we did a test run after we got the new tires on it, and it was like a night and day difference. That's why I got a conversion van over a nice, very fuel efficient car. Don't get me wrong, the car was amazing. I love the little car, but it wasn't fitting what we needed. So, you know, like everything that doesn't really work too well with a family, you try to upgrade and make it fit the family better. Now, I know quite a few people would think that, you know, I could have just went with a little bit of a bigger car and still remain that gas mileage. Well, roughly, still remained decent gas mileage compared to my van. But I was looking for something that's more of the entry level into getting into RV, and something close to it without actually getting one that I could still work or still use to get to and from work and still use it for daily, but not be like that to where you can't really use it for a daily. It's basically strictly for when you do trips. Which we want to get one that's for that, just because, you know, it has the bathroom, it has the beds, showers, cooking, yada yada. So, and plus I've always liked the full-size vans, even though I didn't really like how they looked, per se. I've always had a thing for them. I don't know what it was. I've just always, I don't know. It's weird. And now I got one.